Hello, everyone. So I am here today with whoa. I am here today with my soon Savick, Mr. Brightside, and I'm actually here today to do BJD Addicts prompt number 35, which is all about recasts. I actually tried to do this prompt last night, but after a frustrating hour and a half of not being able to get my thoughts out, I just gave up and decided to try again tonight. So here goes nothing. Hopefully I get it right this time. I think the biggest problem is that I had to actually talk myself into doing this prompt. I was afraid to do it. I am not very confident about giving my opinion on anything, especially if it's an opinion that like people will not like. I don't know. I just get very nervous, and I'm a very non-confrontational person. I don't really like to argue. I don't like when people just plain don't like me. So like, yeah, a lot of things just went into me not wanting to do this prompt. But then I gave it some thought, and I saw other people do the prompts and watch them, and I don't know. I just got motivated to also share my opinion, even if it's not, the best opinion or the most popular opinion or what have you. I just feel like my opinion on I have an opinion on recast, so it's valid and it's my opinion, so I might as well share it. And hopefully it doesn't make people like abhor me, but you never know. So here goes. My overall feelings on recast is that I actually do not condone them. I have my reasons for it, which I'll share, but just to point out, like at the beginning here, I also am not one to force my opinion and my beliefs or thoughts on other people. So I have these, I came to all these conclusions or what have you myself for myself. And I can lead by example if people want to go, oh hey, I agree with this, okay. But if they don't, I'm not gonna like go after them and be like, you have to, because you have to live by my opinion or you can't live or something like that. Because this is such a hot button issue that, I mean, there's middle grounds, but there's also the opposite ends of the spectrum. And I feel like people, especially with a subject such as this, the more you try and force your opinion on people, the further they go the opposite way and kind of cling to their opinion more and more, just because they want to hold on to it because people are so like against it. So that's why I'm like, I'm not going to force my opinions on others, my thoughts on the subject. I'm not going to make people like live the way I view recast. That's just, in my opinion, that's just not fair. Because if I think about the opposite way, like if people who were pro recast were trying to force their opinions on me to like make me buy one or make me feel ridiculous, I would hate that, So I'm not gonna like do the same thing to them with my opinion. It's just not gonna happen. So for myself, I came up with reasonings why I personally will not be buying a recast and why I'm personally against them. The biggest reason for me personally is that I view these dolls as very artistic objects, and I have never really been one to steal art. I mean, I've had some slip ups every now and again. I'm not like a perfect person, but I guess I just understand all the hard work that goes into these dolls and sculpting them and casting them, and just what people put into them, especially like things like my Dolce boys. I know that the guy who made them, he puts a lot into his dolls. He gets really invested in them. And when I found out there was recasts of his dolls, I got I didn't mean to get upset about it, but I did, because I just know how much he puts into them and sculpting them and trying to get them perfect. And that's why there's always such delays with that company. And, dealing with Dulce is not the dream, but it's because when they deliver the doll to you, they want to give you a perfect doll. And um, they just put so much into them. So, for one, I just, since I view them that way, I put them in, the art realm, and I just don't believe in stealing art. I just don't. Um, and then other thing, that's also a big one, I guess, for me, is that these companies are much smaller than I think we all realize. I I never really put too much thought into it when I first joined the hobby, because I'm one of those people, you have a nice flashy website up, and sometimes I just get into my mind that the company is large and that you have a ton of people who do this. But it turns out that's not really true, like, at all. A lot of companies, you know, exist to make these dolls, and the profits they make are not as large as we believe they are. They charge, they probably charge according to cost of materials, people they have to pay, and I'm pretty sure, they, put in a little extra so they have, some actual profit to their company, like all companies do. But since their companies are so tiny, like, to take business from them to someone who is making their products for cheaper, I just couldn't imagine that, because I would hate to lose one of these companies over Recast. It would just break my heart, because that would just mean no more dolls from them. And dolls are just, well, in my opinion, they're just getting better and better and more amazing. And I would hate that to die out and just not be around anymore. So that's another reason for me. And I'm trying to think if there's any, like, more, bigger reasons. I definitely want to support the company anytime I can, and go through licensed dealers, or, direct to them at all times, unless it's absolutely impossible, in which case I've actually had to really go over myself with myself on this particular subject, because there is that gray area in regards to recast, where, people are getting recasted dolls that are no longer available direct from the company. So in that case, that's is sort of a gray area, because I don't want to be all, blaming the secondhand market for all of this. It's not particularly fair, but in some cases it can ring true, because sometimes people will, get their limited doll and then go to sell it, and I've seen it go for 3 times, 4 times, upwards to, like, I saw one that had to be like 8 times the price. And then, it's not hard to wonder why, people would go to through a recaster to get this doll for a reasonable reasonable price. So I almost feel like in some cases the secondhand market pushed people towards recast, and then once people were pushed towards recast, they got into looking at recasts of, dolls that are readily available, because, the prices are so low. And so that's why it's kind of frustrating in a way, but I had to talk myself down from being like, well, maybe I can get a limited, a recast of a limited that's no longer available, or a doll that's no longer available from, like, the company disappeared or what have you. But what made me talk myself down from that is I'm actually very proud of my collection, and I love sharing my collection. I love being very guilt-free about my collection. And I have a feeling that if I own a recast in any, capacity, even if it's of a doll that is no longer available from the company, I have a feeling that I would just guilt myself like crazy and not want to share that doll. And it would just sit there, and, my dolls do spend a lot of time, sitting there. But at any point where I feel inspired, which actually has been happening a lot recently, I can just grab them, take some pictures, share them. And I just feel happy to share them. But I don't want to, I feel happy I have the doll, yes, but I feel guilty for, even remotely taking pictures of it or trying to share it somewhere. And I wouldn't be able to share on Den of Angels, and despite, how people think of Den of Angels and, the ups and downs I've had with that forum, personally, I enjoy it. I like my standing on there. I do not want to lose my um, access to that site over anything. And so I don't know. I just feel uncomfortable with the whole thing. So that is what keeps me from, the gray area of buying limited. Recast limited, I should say. I figure at this point I've come to the conclusion that if a doll is meant to be, it's meant to be. And if things don't fall in place for me to get the doll, then it just wasn't it was either not my time to have it, or it just was not the doll for me. And in many cases, it's actually worked out for me because, sometimes I would see the doll later and I'd be like, what was I even thinking wanting that doll? And then there's some, a couple regrets, but then I figure, down the line, it's available again. Hey, I mean, after all, Zoom came out with their Sardigan, one of my Grail dolls. It came out with him again. It could happen, and it could line up that, I am able to get them direct from the company. So yeah, those are my personal reasonings for me that I definitely will not, force on others or witch hunt others about recasts. I don't know. I would never be comfortable with that. And, if you own one, I'm definitely not going to hate you, because at the end of the day, they are still, dolls. They're still BJDs, whether people want to recognize them as such or not. And as I feel like, as long as you enjoy your recasts responsibly, I can't have a real problem with it, because again, I can't force you to see it my way, just like you can't force me to see it your way. So, and by responsibly, I just mean, like, I have seen some horrible anonymous secrets about people, taking pictures of their recast and showing them the Den of Angels, which has a very clearly stated anti-recast policy, and they do not want them on the site. And things like that, just it kind of breaks my heart, because it has the potential of ruining things for everybody. And then there's the fact that people have admitted, again, anonymously, that they have sold a recast. Like, I saw one that was just horrible. Like, it stays in my head and makes me even not want to deal with the secondhand market. It was basically someone who had a horrible, like, I guess, a needy buyer. I'm not sure if the buyer was even horrible. They may have just had a lot of questions and been kind of naggy, which sometimes you get that way if you're sending a lot of money to a random person over the internet, So apparently they got so fed up that they bought a recast of the doll they were selling this person, and then sent the person to recast. And, like, it's things like that that I can't, that I absolutely can't condone. Like, if you own one, okay, if you sell it as a recast on places where you can sell them as a recast, okay, but to like spread the recast around to people who think they're getting, you know, legit from the company dolls, that's just something I will never get behind and will never be known. Like, it's to the point. I When I read that confession, I was just like, you know what? I may have to not buy this from the secondhand market, and that really sucks for people who, you know, they really need to sell their dolls and their actual dolls, but people, you know, being afraid of accidentally buying a recast and everything. I can see the potential of the secondhand market becoming so stagnant, and there's just not even any point to it. So it blows my mind. So I don't know. I'm hoping that's, you know, I presented my overall feelings on it, because I just cannot record this again. My base thing is that, you know, yes, I am against them, but no, I'm not going to, you know, go after people saying they have to do what I do. But I do want to put out there, I did want to put out there why, which I've stated. And, oh, one last thing that I just remembered from one of the questions is if a friend owned one. You know, I'm not going to, you know, stop being friends with this person. I'm not going to start, you know, stop hanging out with them, with our dolls together and blah, blah, blah. I would have to be that really annoying person who's like, we can't take pictures of our dolls together just in case, you know, someone's like, oh, that doll's in a picture with the recast. I can't tell. Maybe they're both recast, etc. And then that, like, somehow tarnishes whatever reputation I'm trying to build here. You know, if, yeah, I just, yeah, I wouldn't want that. And that sounds like horrible to say, almost like, you know, get your doll away from my doll. But it's true. It's just, I feel like if you own a recast, you should be aware of all the consequences, and I feel like that would be one. And along with, you know, people not wanting to buy from you, and people not necessarily liking your doll, and things like that. And I mean, it's better to be aware of them and, you know, try to adapt to them than, you know, be unaware, I guess. So I guess I'm glad I shared that, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, that's my whole opinion on the thing. And I know it's kind of all over the place, everything, but even when I tried to write my things, you know, my feelings down on the subject, they just still weren't coming out right. I'm way too nervous about sharing things that people just won't like. I'm just not good at it. So thank you if you watched all of this, and I'm sorry. And feel free, you know, if you do want to be comments that leave comments, that's perfectly fine. But hopefully none of them will be you just yelling at me, because I wouldn't know how to respond to that. But hopefully, you know, I presented myself okay, and you understand my point of view, just like I will try to understand your point of view. So yeah, so that's all. Bye.